Household electricity use usually runs in the background of daily life. Lights switch on without much thought. Refrigerators cycle on and off all day. Chargers stay plugged in. Heating or cooling systems respond to thermostats. Most of this activity is automatic, and it spreads across rooms and hours rather than happening as one clear task. Because of that, energy use rarely feels like a single system. It feels like a collection of small, normal habits. A light in the kitchen, a fan in a bedroom, a router that never turns off. Over time, these small pieces stack up, but they do so quietly. Attention usually shows up later, often in the form of a bill, rather than during the moment energy is being used. When people look for alternatives, they often run into physical systems, solar panels on a roof, fuel-powered generators stored in a garage, battery banks mounted to walls. These approaches are visible and hardware-based. They involve delivery, installation, space, and ongoing care. There are manuals, parts, and sometimes permits. Even when marketed as simple, the weight of the system is easy to notice. It takes up space. It has components. It needs checks. In practice, effort in this area tends to gather in two places. The first is setup, choosing equipment, finding space, connecting pieces. The second is maintenance, monitoring, replacing parts, and making sure everything continues to run as expected. For many households, this creates a sense that energy independence is tied to large physical changes in the home. Against this background, instructional formats begin to appear. Instead of shipping equipment, they provide information intended to guide independent construction or experimentation. The physical burden shifts away from the seller and toward the user. The product itself becomes lighter, but responsibility moves in the opposite direction. The energy revolution system sits in this instructional category. Structurally, it is a digital information product rather than a pre-built device. It is delivered as written material, diagrams, and step-by-step guidance. The core of the product is a set of blueprints and explanations that describe how a specific type of electrical component can be arranged and assembled. There is no hardware in the box because there is no box. Access comes through digital files. The materials focus on layout, parts identification, and assembly order. Lists of components are included, along with visual references intended to show how pieces fit together. The design of the product centers on instruction. It does not function as an automated system, a software tool, or a monitoring platform. It does not connect to the home by itself. It does not regulate usage or adjust to changing conditions. Its role is limited to describing a configuration that the user would build separately, using sourced parts. It is also not a service. There is no technician visit, no on-site calibration, and no built-in verification of results. The format assumes that the user reads, interprets, and applies the material independently or with outside help. In this sense, the product behaves more like a technical manual than a finished appliance. Using the energy revolution system begins with reading. Time is first spent going through the written material and diagrams. This stage is quiet and stationary, similar to reviewing a handbook or construction guide. The goal during this period is familiarity with the layout, the names of components, and the order of steps. After that, activity moves into sourcing. Parts listed in the material must be obtained separately. This usually involves visits to hardware or electronic suppliers or online orders. The product itself does not supply these items, so the user manages selection and purchasing. Assembly follows. This is hands-on time. Components are arranged, connected, and secured according to the diagrams. The level of interaction is physical and manual rather than digital. Tools, workspace, and basic handling of electrical parts become part of the process. The product does not perform these steps. It only describes them. Once assembled, the system described in the material becomes an object that exists in the user's environment. Ongoing interaction then shifts from building to periodic observation. The product does not include sensors, alerts, or remote dashboards. Any checks or adjustments are carried out by the user based on the guidance provided. Use in this context is not daily screen time with an app. It is more similar to building a piece of equipment and then living with it in the background, returning to the instructions when clarification is needed. Because the energy revolution system is information-based, it simplifies distribution. There is no shipping delay, no heavy equipment to deliver, and no installation crew to schedule. Access to the material is immediate once obtained, and the format can be stored on a computer or printed for reference. At the same time, this structure leaves several areas open. The product does not enforce build quality. Differences in part selection, assembly precision, and environmental conditions are not controlled by the format. The same diagrams can lead to slightly different physical outcomes depending on interpretation and execution. It also does not provide ongoing adaptation. If something behaves differently than expected, the material does not update in real time. There is no built-in troubleshooting system beyond what is written in the guide. Situations that fall outside the documented steps remain outside the product's scope. Compared with turnkey systems, this format may feel lighter at the beginning and heavier later. The absence of pre-assembled hardware reduces upfront complexity, but it increases the role of personal responsibility. The product supplies direction, not enforcement. It describes a path without walking it. Among energy-related options, the Energy Revolution system occupies a space closer to instructional documentation than to commercial power equipment. It sits alongside guides, schematics, and experimental build manuals rather than packaged generators or integrated home systems. Its full character depends on the contents of the material itself, the clarity of the diagrams, the level of detail in the steps, and the way concepts are explained. Those elements cannot be fully understood from descriptions alone. They exist inside the documents. Without direct review of the blueprints and written guidance, the exact depth of explanation, the precision of instructions, and the assumptions about user skill remain inside the product. The format outlines a process, but the experience of that process lives in the interaction between the material and the person using it.